Welcome, everybody, to Sia Nejad Sports. I am joined today by, I got to be honest, Thorb, we just met 5 minutes ago, and I only knew about you a week ago. I'm just so impressed. I'm so glad you came on to the show today. How's everything going?
Everything's going great, man. I did know about you. It was weird. I noticed your face like right away. I was like, I've seen this guy somewhere. And not only was it just like TV or whatever. Pat Mayo, I'm a huge fan of the PME. So
Yeah.
I and then I looked up how long it felt like it was like a month ago, but I guess it was like 4 months ago. You guys did where it was on this, right?
It was on this. It's so funny. Yeah. Yeah, Thorb, he actually repurposed it on his podcast. That's probably where you caught it. And that
Yes.
was about a month ago. You want to hear something funny? And this actually is goes into the theme of this show. Because Thorb, this show, I know it's called Sia Nejad Sports. And I've told you this, I told you this earlier when we spoke. It's not really a sports show. It's a show about motivating people through creativity, which obviously you're all about, through hard work, which of course you're all about. And what's really interesting, you don't know about my background, and this isn't a show about me, but I do feel like I need to tell you, and this, I'll tie Pat Mayo in here in a little bit. I'm an attorney. I practiced law for 13 years. I got out of it, and I basically, long story short, got into the media game because this is what I'm passionate about. So I left a very secure thing for kind of a thing that is a little insecure, probably like the music industry, which we're going to get into. But talk about a full circle moment. You're on this show, Thorpe, and you just brought up Pat Mayo. I now co-host a TV show in Washington, D.C. With a young lady named Meg McDonald, who's excellent. And guess who was our guest on that show today? None other than Pat Mayo. So it's just such a good illustration, Thorpe, of like how if if you're focused, you can kind of go the right direction.
Yeah, and I mean that just also goes to show like how good networking is, and just kind of getting yourself out there with really anyone in a similar space, or just anyone with that same sort of passion as you. Because I know it's like a funny thing for me when anyone follows me, and I click their profile, I look who follows them. And if it is somebody I know and respect, like I hit that follow button right away. And it's just sort of funny, like how that works and how many people are actually connected. So like the more people you work with, people might look at your profile and be like, oh, wow, Sia follows him, that I'm going to follow him right back. And then you guys can end up working together. So it all comes full circle at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's funny what you said about like this is like an overused phrase, but like show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I mean, that's something I want to get into you. And that's not my quote, obviously. People have been saying that for years. I remember Maurice Claret saying that on like an ESPN show like 20 years ago. But the long and short of it is, I do want to ask you about that because, by the way, so you know what? Before I even get there, people need to know something about you. That you're like a legit recording artist that doesn't just do NFL recaps. Because I'll be honest, and this is why I led the show like this, Thorpe. I learned about you because of your week 8 NFL recap, 2023 week 8 NFL recap. I was absolutely blown away. And when I retweeted it, those who didn't know who you were, a lot of people did know who you were, by the way, but those who didn't were also blown away by it. And then it occurred to me, like, well, maybe this isn't just like an NFL recap guy. So I went to your Instagram where you have like 40,000 followers. By the way, you have about 300,000 on TikTok. But I went to your Instagram and I was like, oh, like this is a hip hop artist. This is a rapper. This is a recording artist, 100%. And I went on to Spotify. I've been listening to your songs. I'm like a little fanboy at this point. I've been listening to your songs for the last like 24 hours, really just trying to get some. Like I actually wanted to quote some lyrics from your songs because I think they're like probably applied to your life. I listened to Sixth Sense. I listened to Blame Game, Crowding the Plate, Lil Homie. And then the song, I can't remember the song you just released 2 weeks ago. What's the name of that?
Way Too Long probably is.
That one. It's amazing. So for those of you that just think Thorb is a NFL recap guy, please dig a little bit deeper. Let me ask you this though. Do you sort of resent that? I mean, obviously you've gotten some popularity because of the NFL recaps, but you're obviously a lot more than that. Since so many people know you as the NFL recap guy, do you kind of like almost like internally say to yourself, well, I don't necessarily want to be painted with that narrow brush?
Yeah. So when the whole sports aspect of my career kind of started, it was probably about 2 years ago. Anything I did sports content wise would always just go viral. And it was great. And then I realized, so and I know you mentioned the TikTok following. I went from 0 to 200,000 in about a year, and as that was happening, my Spotify listenership was going down, and that blew my mind. And it got to the point where I stopped all sports content for about 6 months. And I was like, okay, let me push this music now that I got this whole following. But then you realize you're sort of trapped in a sports algorithm that those 200,000 people, they don't necessarily see me as a musician. They see me more as an entertainer. So they go on, they've had a long day. They just want to see this kid rap about the Kansas City Chiefs or something like that. They don't think of me as this serious recording artist that's been doing it for 10 years. And that really got to me to the point where, like I said, I stopped all sports stuff entirely. And I went from getting 5 to 6 million views a month to about 20,000. And that is strictly because I just stopped sports. And that used to really get to me. And now I'm starting to realize I lean into it more now because, one, it gives me the opportunity to work and meet people like yourself. And there's just so many things that can come from it. And then I got to stop and think like, hey, you're still doing what you love, right? You love making music. I love sports as much as the next guy. I love football. I remember back when I used to work these regular old jobs, my only stipulation was like, hey, listen, can't work Sunday. So I love football. So then I had to really be like, all right, is it the worst thing in the world that you're blowing up off of these sports videos? And then I realized, no, it's not, because if these opportunities that can arise from that. And I'm like, okay, I'm still making music. And then if the people like you are just able to connect those two things, like, hey, let me just go check out a Spotify and everything like that, and then just really learn that, like, I really do this, you know what I mean? It's not just like I can rap about sports, I can just recap some stuff, and like there's a reason they're so good. It's because I've been doing this for so long and I can make very good music. So yes, I appreciate you acknowledging that aspect of it for sure.
So a couple things I want to touch on. First of all, you talked about the regular old jobs. That's going to be an important part of this discussion, because I think most people that are watching right now, by the way, thank you for watching, hit the like button, do all that stuff, or who are listening to the podcast that I'm about to release, by the way. So one thing you don't know, Thorb, is this has really been a YouTube show and it hasn't been in podcast form. So quick announcement that I'm really happy about. I'm going to be, with the help of, I think I'm going to mess up the name right now, James Santori, 3-2 Strategies. I think that's what it is. If you're in the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong on the name of your company, but he's going to help me put this on a podcast platform so that people can not necessarily, like, I know people don't want to run to YouTube and like be like, oh, there's that show with Thorb. Like, they want to listen to the podcast. It's just easy to get that. So even my old shows, Thorb, you're probably my 18th or 19th guest. I've had some, you mentioned Pat Mayo. I've had some really big time guests. So I'm going to put all of those in podcast form as well. But so I want to talk about the regular old jobs because I think that's going to resonate with people. And I'm curious if you're doing the quote regular old jobs right now with your music stuff. I imagine you're not, but I don't know. But my first question is, how do you bridge the gap at this point? You talked about the sports algorithm and how you were literal by that, an actual algorithm, how you're like sort of trapped by that in terms of you being sort of your genre being this one sort of narrow thing. How do you bridge the gap to like become the recording artist that I know you want to be, so the broader recording artist?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find a happy medium. And the reality of it is 100 times easier to make a living out of, let's just say, this sports content than the actual music. So let's just say in the last 2 years of creating sports related content and whatever deals that I've gotten from that and whatever teams or organizations I've worked with, I've made more money in those 2 years than I made in the 10 years collectively of making music. So it's you can get one deal in the sports industry and make more than anyone has made in music in 5 years. So it's and that's like the tough reality of it. And like, granted, it's not all about money, but at some point you have to realize kind of what you're doing and what you're kind of getting into. And so now I'm like I said, I'm leading into it more, and I just can't be too upset about it. And if people stumble upon the music, like, so be it. And I think even the musical, it'll go at some point. It's good enough to go. It's just, you gotta get enough ears on it. And you would think with the millions of views that come in, people would kind of figure that out and go, but it's a lot easier for them to just watch the content and get out of there than like, let me go to his profile. Oh, he makes music. Let me go to the Spotify. It's too many steps. So I'm still going to create so much content around the original music. That's never going to go away. So, of course, it's not going to do as well as the sports stuff, but that's just something I got to deal with and be okay with. And I totally am now. If you asked me this 2 years ago, I would have got really mad at anyone calling me a sports rapper or an NFL recap guy. I would have freaked out a little bit about that, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
Can we talk or even plug some of your associations? Like when I went on your Instagram, I saw like the ATP Tour, like you're very involved in tennis in terms of like the recapping stuff. Do you actually have a partnership at all? Or did you ever with like the ATP Tour or anything like that?
So kind of how this started was, well, believe it or not, it started, I have a song called The Marvelous Freestyle, and it's the last like minute and a half of the song, I hit like 30 Marvel characters, just referenced them in a row. And I put out a video with like the pictures popping up, kind of like how I do now. That was my first video to ever go viral. And after that, it was like, hey, do DC, do the NFL, do whatever. And then so I kept doing those. And this was on TikTok. Yeah. So the US Open's TikTok commented, hey, do one for us. And I did. This is when I was doing everything for free back in the day. And so I did it. Went viral, and then they were one of the only people that I did something for free for that followed up with that and wanted to actually work together, which is a lot rarer than people think it is. And then they reached out. We worked last year, and then they hired me again this year to do some more work, and I expect that to last for a long time because they're just good people. They just want to, they see the value of what content is, which is starting to happen a lot more. So yeah, they're just good people over there.
So like that's obviously work you're getting like compensated for in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's very little I'll do for free now because I've been doing stuff for free for 10 years. So
yeah,
it's I'm starting to see because at some point you got to realize your own worth and value. And I've hit that point where I'm like, man, all the numbers are there. I think I'm finally past that. So, and of course I still do a bunch for free. I'll do a lot of work, but the good thing about doing the things for free, I have no expenses because I do every single aspect of music, content, editing myself. So,
wow. Okay. So that answers another one of my questions. I'm going to ask you about that before we get out of here too. But it's funny. I can tell you, I can share this story with you. When I was promoting this show, there was no fewer than, I don't know, 8 or 10 people that were like, hey, get him to do this for this show that you're on, or get him to do this for my show. And like, listen, like, I get that. Like, it's not like, and for the record, they probably want to compensate you. I'll talk to you about it after the show, like in all honesty, because I think when you see the level that you're at, like, it's very obvious that like probably you charge for stuff like that. Right. So, I mean, I think like, but that's kind of beside the point.
Depends who it is. It depends who it is. Like I said, if there's value in doing something for somebody else that could come back to you in the future and offer you something else, why would you charge? I've had people that get no streaming, they don't really get views on their content, try to charge me for things. And it's just, why wouldn't you want to do something for me so I can give you something back? So sorry to interrupt, but like, if it makes sense and that person is working their ass off, can I curse on here? I don't know if I can.
Yeah, of course.
If that person's working their ass off as well, and you know that they have connections, do it for free. Just be nice, be a good person, and that all that stuff's going to come back to you at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think people need to realize that, like, to show your worth, you kind of have to show your worth first, right? Like, you can't just be like, I'm the guy for you, pay me this amount. And by the way, speaking of worth, it is 3-2 strategies. 3-2 strategies helps me with things like this overlay, Thorb, where we can find you on Instagram, TikTok at the same tag. So thank you, 3-2 strategies. They're going to help me turn this show into a podcast as well. So let me back up just a little bit because you talked about. Oh, by the way, I didn't finish the association. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you. ATP Tour. I saw something on Instagram. You're partnered with Underdog, right? Underdog
Yes.
Fantasy?
Just signed with them about a week and a half ago. Yeah, so
Gotcha.
they are now powering the recaps for the remainder of the regular season.
That's awesome. Any other ones that are relevant to you right now?
Currently, it was funny at the same time, like 3 or 4 companies reached out to me the same week. So I it must have been one of the recaps that went like pretty around that
Yeah.
everyone hit me at the same time. As far as like current other deals, like I'm trying. The thing with me, I've done so many one-off deals in my life that I want somebody that is going to stick with me long term and wants to
Yeah.
build. So when people see me, they think them, and vice versa.
Mhm.
So I hate doing one-offs, and I've done a lot of one-offs. Like I've worked with Spotify, I've done videos for the Spurs, like just a bunch of other teams. But it's like, okay, here's the video, thank you, goodbye. And
Yeah.
that's sort of not what I want. So I mean, even with Underdog, like I'm gonna do the whole season. That was important to me to get the whole season, and then after that, hopefully we can work on extensions for like yearly stuff. And that's sort more what I'm looking for, because like I said, I've done so many one-offs. It's tiring at some point.
No, I get that. You want the relationship because there's also a mutual respect built into something long term as well. Like I know for this show, I haven't grown it to the extent that I need to because it's kind of in its initial phases. But I'm already thinking of partnerships I want for Sia Nejad Sports that are like relationships that make sense, but also that probably last longer than like a one-off sort of thing. So let's go back to the regular old jobs because I see Joe in the chat, for example. Tim seems to be a big fan of yours, by the way. But I know Joe. I know Joe well enough to know he sort of fits in that regular old job category. Which, by the way, I'm not trying to be negative about that necessarily. We all kind of have these jobs that we go to that we don't necessarily love, and we try to break out of it into something we're passionate about, like you clearly have. What were those regular old jobs, and do you do them anymore? Or are you full-time music now?
So I'm currently full time, to answer that. Am I successfully full time? Not exactly. So like, I mean, I still struggle just like anybody else. That like I'm still on the way up. Like people see like my following and everything like that, and assume like there's like legitimate people out there that just like assume I'm rich because of all the views and everything like that.
Mhm.
And I love that I can come on stuff like this and just not lie to people. So and just show how, because the problem with social media especially is that everyone is going to portray their life to be something it's not. And like I love that I can just not do that, because it is so hard to get to even where I am. And I need people to realize that once you look at where I am and realize I'm still not there, I'm not even close. So and that's with, to give an estimate, 60 to 80 million views over the last two years, and I am not financially successful yet. So that is what people need to understand. Sorry, I'll get to the regular job stuff. So went to college, did all that thing. Came out and I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And I don't know if you know about, or I feel like everyone might have known someone that worked at Enterprise for some point.
Yeah.
It is a grind. It is a grind. It's not an 8-hour, 9-hour shift. It's like an 11-hour shift every day. It is an absolute grind. So what I would do there, I would work the 11 hours, get home, or I would work the 11 hours, go to the gym, get home, eat, work on music for like 6 hours, and go to sleep, and do that every day. And it was pretty miserable. I would wake up because I'd have like 1 or 2 off days a week maybe, and on those days I would like just try not to sleep, essentially, just to get like, because if I had a day off, even if it was a Saturday, I would just try to put in at least like 12 hours on music just to try to figure that out. And then that lasted until COVID, because everyone was getting laid off, including myself. I was going to, the funny story is there was another sales position that opened up. Because I worked up at Enterprise, I was a remarketing logistics supervisor. So like I managed like 8 people, and we were basically selling the cars after they were rented and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And I was thinking about switching to another sales position. I had an interview lined up with them like a week after this all happened, and then they laid me off. And the funny thing is, I was going to quit the week later because I was going to take off a month or two because I've saved up a bunch of money. I was going to take off a month or two and just strictly work on music, because I thought if I did that, I was like, I've never had the time. If I'm only putting in 4 to 6 hours a day, because that's all I had, imagine if I put in 12, 13, 14, I feel like I would be unstoppable, right? So like I was going to take off 2 months, and then they laid me off, gave me a severance. I was like, now's the time. So like I'm going to take like maybe 4 months now and just absolutely grind. I was doing 12-hour days every single day. I was teaching myself every single aspect of the things that I knew how to do, mostly everything already, but I was just trying to teach myself everything, anything that I could possibly do, I was learning. And essentially after that, even though it wasn't working financially, I knew that this was going to work eventually. And you have to, because you can't ever doubt it. You need to know it's going to work, and you have to fully commit, because if you're even like half out of it, you're never going to get to where you want to be. So after that, I thought I was going to get a job like 4 months after that. I never got one again. And like I said, that's not because I'm out here making so much money. That is because I decided that like there was no other option for me. I knew that this was it, and I had to fully commit. And if I went and got a job, do you think I would have no ability to do these recaps at all? And like, this is why I'm speaking to you, and this is why I met so many cool people through it. I would have those recaps. I wake up at 8 or 9 a.m. and I start the second I wake up, and I work on it till 8 p.m. and I don't eat that day. I don't do anything. I like, the only thing I have time to do is breathe. And then I would never be able to do that with a job. So I realized sort of things like that, and it's finally starting to pay off. But that was 3 years of not working. Luckily for me, I saved up so much money because I don't do anything. I'm so committed to this that I gave up vacations. I gave up going out. I don't go out at all. I basically just don't leave the house. Like, I haven't dated in like 8 years because I said I would not get like even a girlfriend until I made it to the spot where I wanted to be, which sounds insane, but that is what I've done. That is what I've given up, because you have to sacrifice almost everything to make it in this industry. And and that's kind of how that work thing went. But
let me ask you this. One thing you said that struck me that is like a theme on this show. I mean, it's not purposeful. It's just that this is what comes out in the conversations. You use the words that you taught yourself so many different things around music. So you were able to kind of facilitate things like the NFL recap video, for example. Pat Mayo is a guy who talked about that when he was first coming up, sort of in this industry. He basically taught himself everything. Femi Abebefe from VSiN said the same thing. Most recently, Taylor Mathis was on this show. She said the same thing in terms of how she would basically produce her own videos and just be able to do everything. So that's kind of one of those things that I think is easier said than done. In other words, people might be listening to this. They're like, yeah, well, that makes sense. If you have extra time, like, teach yourself. But there's always that moment where you've told yourself you're teach yourself something, or that you're going to take a step towards a goal, and you just meet something you don't understand, whether it's a tech issue or whether it's just something that is just beyond your expertise. Now, in some cases, you can ask for help and you can have a team of people to help you. I'm curious, though, just from a mindset standpoint, you had to have met those issues as you were like trying to basically produce like all of this that you produce. How did you get past those moments that were like, oh man, I think I need to give up here?
Time. And just doing it. That's the most important. The reason people don't, I think, make it to where they want to go is you either don't want enough or you just don't try. I had no idea. So mixing audio is the most important. Well, I guess not it's like 80% of music. No one's going to listen to your song. You could be the best artist, rapper, or whatever in the world. No one's going to listen to it if the audio sounds horrible. And that is a huge part of it. And I had no idea how to mix. Absolutely none. I've never been to a studio. I've only recorded myself, like, just with my own equipment. And I've never known an engineer that knew how to mix. I've never met anyone that did that. So one summer, I locked myself in my garage because that's where my studio was at the time. And I just taught myself how to mix for 3 months. And it was horrible at first, absolutely horrible. but I was making so much music and I was so scared to release it because I knew it wasn't at the professional audio quality. And like I was working on like a $250 mic, which is very different now. Like now, like I have like a $2,000 mic, and it's just way better. But I was working with not the best equipment, and so I locked myself in there for 3 months. And guys, there's YouTube. There's so many things that you could look up. I bought a course from a guy that I didn't even really know. I was just like, maybe he'll teach me something. I was like, I have to try absolutely everything. And then after those 3 months, I came out with mixes that were just never even close to the old quality. And I was finally comfortable enough. And that's a huge part, because it not only saves you, I guess, time, it saves you a mass amount of money. For me, for somebody to make, let's just say 10 songs, and somebody's charging them $300 to mix that song, it's $3,000 right there. And that's $0 for me. So it's a huge difference. And you have to want it enough, and you got to understand that relying on other people, I think, is like the worst possible thing you could ever do, because no one will ever care about the work as much as you do, because it's yours. So when I've sent my songs out to people to mix, and I got it back like they did it in 10 minutes, because they probably did. And they don't know me. They don't care about me. They don't see the vision that I have. So nobody will care about your work as much as you. So why not teach yourself how to do it?
It's funny you mentioned that. When I was putting out a reel to basically get jobs in media, after I'd done some media, but I really wanted to like just kind of like, take that next step. So I put a reel together. And fortunately, I had somebody ultimately who helped me do it, because I put the clips together. He helped me do it. But the first guy I went to was so bad. And it was so clear, like he was just trying to collect a few bucks. And like he had no care in the world about how the actual reel like turned out, or what my input was, or anything like that. And you're right, that can be frustrating. Now there are people that will like actually help you, of course, especially if they're just like super professional. But you're right. Obviously you're going to value your work more than really anybody, no matter how professional they are. Speaking of, do you have, like you said, you're kind of like solo in all of this. Like you're not even thinking about a girlfriend. Like you're not going out and drinking. Like I respect all those things, but are there people sort of in your inner circle? Like I see from a music standpoint, when I look at your stuff on Spotify, like I see Wave, for example, which is an incredible song. Everybody go to Spotify, type in Thorb, and then the word Wave. That song is awesome.
It's that's one of my favorites right there.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's with J-Rob and the Chief. And then I see, let's see, Justin Starling is in Crowding the Plate with You. Lil Homie, that song, Futuristic, B. Martin, and yourself. Are those guys part of your circle in any way? Or like, I don't want you to say no, like you don't like them, but like, how did you even connect with those people?
So those ones in particularly, are actually all linked. So I've never had management or any sort of team at all. It's just all been me. And it's good for certain things, terrible idea for other things. I always think people should go reach out for help at any moment, but I'm very stubborn, and like I said, I know no one's going to care as much as me, so I just taught myself how to do it all, so I wasn't held back in any way. But briefly, this was a little less than a year ago. I was I don't know if you've ever heard of Futuristic. He's very big in Arizona. Yeah, so so he signed me to his management team, and basically run by him and a few others. And that's how I met J-Rob, who's on Wave. Justin Starling was set up through Futuristic. And Futuristic just saw all the content I was making and knew how hard I worked. So he obviously wanted to be a part of that. And super, super great guy. He helped me a lot on the music side of things, which is his forte, because he was a big artist himself. And then we stopped working together. It's probably like 6 months ago, and I was like very upset about it. But he admitted to me that, like, because of this sports stuff that was going on, that really wasn't his, like, he didn't know how to help in that way. He could help so much with music, but he saw I was blowing up in just the sports way, and just different sort of avenues. But yeah, of course I work with a lot of artists, because if you put out enough content, enough people are going to see it, and then they're going to be like, oh, wow, man, this was really cool. And then you check out them and you're like, oh, you're dope too. And then you'll eventually just start working together. And I think that's the best thing as an artist that you can do, because you have a fan base. If somebody has a similar fan base to you, they might have never heard of you before. That could say they have 20,000 listeners on Spotify. That's 20,000 people that have never heard you before. So, and then you're 60,000, maybe they've never heard of him either. You're combining, you got 80,000 people that could be listening to that song. Why aren't you doing that thing? So I always think collaboration in any industry is huge. So yes, I don't have a internal team, but there's so many people that I've just gained a respect for, and that also respect me enough to give me certain opportunities and just work with me in general that have just occurred over the years.
Now, here's the thing. The reverse of that can also be true. So here's what I want to ask you. By the way, speaking of Wave, I'm going to pull a lyric from it. I'm not going to try to emulate it like you sing it, because that would be completely ridiculous. But the lyric is, let some people go because they was only trying to weigh me down, ain't trying to drown. Like, were there people that, whether it's the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, where you were like, yeah, I'm not seeing any sort of vision with these people pushing me forward? And you don't have to like formally tell them, hey, I'm not your friend anymore or whatever. But like, did you kind of just slowly let people go because you knew you had to?
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to even count the amount of people I've just kind of had to drift away from, because it's when you have worked as hard as you have and you've put out the amount of content, and when you do everything yourself, and like when it takes you 12 hours to make a video, and when you've just gone through the things that you've gone through in life, like when you see somebody that might not be putting in a similar effort, or maybe has a big following, but they post like once every 2 weeks, it's kind of, I don't know, I almost get like disrespected in a way where it's just like, oh man, like, I don't know if I could work with somebody that's not on the same sort of path and vision that I have, and just is willing to grind as hard. Like people, I do features with a lot of like artists that I guess they don't get enough streams. They're like sort of just starting out. And it's a big thing for me. If somebody reaches out to work, I will look at their profile, and if I see them posting like once or twice a month, I'm like, you don't want it enough. You know what I mean? Why would I help in any sort of way? I like whenever I've reached out to somebody, they can just easily go look and just see the grind that I'm putting in. They don't even need to know that I'm doing it all myself. They can just almost feel the grind that I'm putting in. So they're much more willing to work with you. And like, same thing with you or Pat or anybody. Like, the reason I love Pat is because the guy grinds, man, and you can just tell. It's unbelievable how much effort he puts in, how much content he puts out, and those are the people. And this is a weird thing to say, I don't listen to music. I haven't really listened to music for like 2-3 years. It's very weird, I know. But I listen to so many podcasts, and it's just when you feel the effort from anyone making content, and you can just see it happening, the respect level is crazy. So like, if you ever just meet people like that, it's just always nice to connect and just make something happen.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I mean, I think one of the themes for Sia Nejad Sports is, and it's a theme I introduce with a lot of guests too, or I open up a conversation about it. It's that there are people that are in your life that are good people, but they're just not good for you right now. Like, they're not as focused as you. They have sort of different goals in life, and that's totally okay. They don't have to be as goal oriented as you are, but if they're not, there's a really good chance they're weighing you down, and you need to. And I know for me, it really helped me to kind of find the people that I knew were constantly going to push me forward, actively push me forward, but also actively push themselves forward, because that's motivation to me. Just whether it's a completely different goal or not, just seeing somebody like chase something and really go after something that they're passionate about, those are the people you want in your life.
Yeah, I'll say this too. If you're trying to make it in content or anything, stop trying to, or don't worry about your friends' approval or your family's approval. And because my thing is, if you are trying to get the support of your friends in this, and just your friends, those are the last people you should want to gain. You know what I mean? Like, because they're automatic, right? You should be wanting to get the rest of the world and not worry about. I have friends that I love to this day that I see all the time that have never reposted a single thing I've ever done. I don't care. I'm not trying to win them over. So like, don't worry about if your friends are going to repost you or everything like that. That's not your end goal. You're trying to reach the world. You're trying to reach other people. So there's I mean, you just got to do it, put it out there, and just don't worry about what anyone even like I said, even your close friends, because you're not trying to win them over. You already got them. So
Yeah.
that's one thing for sure.
Hey, let me ask you something that just caught my ear. And there might not be an answer to this question, but you said something to the effect of, people may not have gone through the things that you have gone through. Is there anything from your past, maybe it's from your childhood, that sort of has, like, maybe it's a negative thing that has actually propelled you to be so passionate, be so hardworking, be so creative? Is there anything that, like, you've kind of leaned on in that way?
I mean, I would say it's funny. I'm like a jerk in the way that I've always so I played sports my whole life, and I was always I don't want to sound like cocky. I was very good at them, and I never tried. I didn't really I never really cared, and that never seemed to matter. And the one thing that I did care about was this, and I tried so hard and got nowhere. So it's almost like the negativity, or like that sort of, that pushed me harder than anything, rather than like anything sort of happening to me. And like, of course, like when I was playing sports and growing up, I've had surgery like 7 times on my body. That's what derailed everything. But like I said, I never really cared. And like, I finally found something I really cared about, and I tried harder than anything I had in my entire life and made it nowhere for like 8 years. So that feeling would stop almost anybody. But Nipsey Hussle, I think, said this one time. He's like, you're a lot closer to the destination than you are if you were to turn around and go home. So that's kind of what always kept pushing me. I remember, like, a funny thing. I told my mom once, I was like, if I don't make it by 29, I'll stop. Cause like they always question this sort of thing. Right. So I told her 29, that's it. I hit 29 and this year. And then it's funny. She asked, so she's like, is that it? I was like, yeah, I'll never, ever stop in my life. Like I lied, you know what I mean? Because there's gotta be a certain point where you accept, like, this is it. And this is what you're going to do. And I hit that a couple of years ago. I've always had doubts, but there's no way in hell I'm ever stopping this sort of thing, because it's all, like I said, it's all I've ever loved. It's all I've ever tried at. And I know that this is going to go to the moon. It just took so much longer than I thought,
Speaking of going to the moon, we have Tim Rongo in the chat, who I think
is
I was going to say, a big fan of yours. Hopefully he's a fan of this talk as well. He says, I can see it in Sia's eyes. He knows he's talking to a future red carpet walker. As what's interesting about that comment is, and I'm just being dead serious here, and I think I've kind of intimated to this earlier in the show. I think you're so good, and it's because not just that musically you're good, you're also very creative, and I think that's like kind of a lost art. People think it's just hard work. Well, hard work really helps, but being creative, taking the time to be introspective and being like, how can I do this different? And obviously the NFL recaps is one way you sort of propelled your way. And it's funny, ironic, it propelled you in maybe a direction you weren't sure you wanted to go, but propelled you nonetheless. But it's not just the creativity. You can be really funny. Like, I'm looking at some of your videos and you incorporate little subtle humor, sometimes obvious humor too, but like, you've got so much going for you. Obviously, you're producing all this, which I didn't know. Lyrically, it sounds to me like you're writing all the lyrics too, at least to your songs. All of them. So I actually, like, honestly, part of the reason I was so excited to reach out to you and get you on here is because I actually do think you're going places. But this leads me to my actual question. This isn't just a statement. Do you have an end goal? And you don't have to have one, of course, but like you say, go to the moon. Like, what would be, like 15 years from now, let's say 10 years from now, 8 years, it doesn't matter. It's just time is just time. But what would be the place that you would get to? Not where you would relax and be like, oh, I've made it, so I'm just going to coast, where you'd be like, oh, wow, like this is it. Like, I got it.
Yeah. It's funny. My moon is a lot closer than I guess most people's would be. I wanted to be the biggest and best rapper / artist in the entire world. That was my goal. Because I would listen to people like my favorites, like Drake and J. Cole. I'm like, oh, I could rap right next to them. Like, it's and that's not like, first of all, if you don't think those things, if you don't think you can compete with the top, like just stop now, because like this, you have to have that level of confidence. So I saw that and I'm like, oh, I could be right there with him. And then my goals sort of shifted in a way where after so long and after working so hard, I'm like, I just want to make a living off of this. I want to make a living off of what I do. Wherever that goes, I will be okay with, as long as I am fine just where I'm at and I'm making a living doing what I love. That is the most important thing to me. That can mean a lot of different things. I could be making a very, very good living, which would be cool, but I am okay now in my life where if I'm just doing this, I am happy. And that I would not have said that a few years ago. But just a lot of things have happened since then. And that's sort of, that's my moon. That is where, but the thing is, once I get there, and like I said, I'm finally very close to that now. And man, like I said, 10 years. But for me saying that might come across like, oh, he's going to be content once he makes a certain amount or whatever. Not even close. Like I'm so ready to just grind and grind. I've been doing it for so long. I don't mind the work. I don't know, like these 12-hour days, like, yeah, they get to me, but it's just like, I'll do it again the next day. It doesn't really matter to me. So once I get there, yes, I will be content's not the right word. I will be happy, but I'm going to continue to grind my ass off until I don't even know. There is no, I don't have an end goal.
There is no until. That's the thing, but that's what makes you so successful. I can share a story just recently. Like I moved up to DC for a new opportunity. I still do my other opportunities as well. Like I didn't leave anything behind. I just had an extra opportunity to pursue. And when I got that opportunity, a lot of people they would like look in my eyes and be like, man, aren't you excited? Like, how come you're not smiling more? How come you're not like, just like, I did it, like fist pump stuff. And I'm like, because if I do that, then that means subconsciously or consciously, I'm relaxing. Like I don't want to turn this off. There's no reason to turn it off, because to your point, I love doing this, but I'll never say I made it. I mean, I just won't, no matter where I get to, I'll never say I made it, because it's not that I'm chasing something like external to me. I'm chasing something better than what I was the day before. And I know that sounds like super cliche, but I'm telling you, if you like, it's so funny you said that, because I'm the same way. If you ever feel like you made it, you just lost. And like, that's how I see it, period.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. Yeah. It's a lot to go through. I mean, because once you get there, I guess there's a lot of people that, you'll see it all the time, and especially in music, that will finally pop off or go viral or have that one song and they have no idea what to do. The great thing about suffering all of these years is I'm so ready to blow up. Like there's just, because the second I do, and some people think I have now, and I'm just so on the other side of that, but it's cool being able and just having done all this stuff myself, and I do not need any help. The second anyone comes at me for any opportunity in this world, I am so ready. And there's no way I'm not, because I've been through everything. So it's almost a blessing and a curse now that I'm sort of getting to where I'm at, because if I got to where, like right now at this moment where I am, if I got there 6 years ago, I don't think I would have been as ready. I would not have the resume that I have. So I think that's important too. Like, well, it's not important to take so long to blow up, but it's nice to just sort of build out that resume. So if people say like, oh, I need this, where's the next hit? Where's the next, like somebody from a TV show can hit me up today, right? They can hit me up during this interview and be like, hey, I need a song for this Marvel movie. If you can get it by tomorrow, I'll be like, tomorrow, I'll do it tonight. Like there's nothing I really can't do at this point. So I guess that's a blessing that I had to wait this long,
That's interesting, because I actually want to, like, I have a couple questions before I get you out of here, and it pertains to what you can do so quickly. Can you take me through the NFL Sunday and whatever you have to do Monday to get these NFL recap videos up? And by the way, whoever has not already seen some of these NFL recap videos, they can just go to your IG. I mean, you put it on Twitter, but most of your following's on Instagram and TikTok, of course. I would just take me through Sunday and Monday.
Sunday, I'm just a regular guy, man. I'll just watch the game, usually with some of the boys, and we'll just we'll do the same regular stuff. It's not like I mean, the cool thing about this like job in a way is watching football is part of it. And I don't take that part like super, I'm not like jotting down notes or anything like that. The stories write themselves and they're going to be right in front of your face. So, you know, I'll be drinking Sunday. Like it doesn't matter. Like I'll take Sunday. Sunday is my only off day. So I will take Sunday to absolutely relax. And then of course, after the night game, I'm like, man, should I start? And I'm like, nope, Sundays are off day. It's fine. So I don't do anything on Sunday except watch the games. And I'll like keep in mind, like, okay, that was big. Like I got to mention that or whatever happens. And then Monday, it's just an absolute grind. Like I said, I wake up and there isn't a single second I'm not working on it. So I wake up whenever that could be, 8, 9, and then I write it first thing in the morning. I write the whole thing. I go record it. I get out of the booth. I go set up the filming. I film the video, and then I clip it all together, and then I put it in the editing software. I edit the entire, then I mix the audio for the audio. Then I master the audio. Then I edit the video, and then after that, all that probably takes until like 7 or 8 p.m. and then I throw it out. So the easy part is making the music. I can think of the recap in 30, 40 minutes. The hard part is just like the mixing of the audio and the edit. The edit takes forever because as you see on them, the scores are popping up, the players are popping up as I say them on time. And as they kept getting bigger and bigger, the recaps, and I knew the eyes were going to be on them, I made the edits better. I put more things popping up as they go. Because like if more people are watching it, I want to do absolute best I can and without trying to be perfect, because then it would take me 12 hours instead of, well, it does take me 12. It would take me 15 hours instead of the 12. So I just try to get it out as fast as I can, but the editing part is an absolute grind, just trying to make it as good as you can, because I know a lot of people can do what I do. I don't think as well, but they can do what I do as far as just like rapping and putting out a recap or anything like that. You are not going to edit the way I do, and you're not going to put it out as quickly as I do. So
it's funny you say about other people, because I'm not going to like put anybody down. Certainly not going to call them out by name, but it just so happens, I guess you mentioned the algorithm earlier, like because I watched yours, especially that, because I was introduced to you by the NFL Week 8 recap. And by the way, there were so many amazing lines, especially like when the music kind of cuts out and you do the Deshaun Watson part about the vows. And I'm telling you, dude, like that was like so ridiculous. And the song was already like, everything up to that point was already like, oh my gosh, this is blowing my mind. But then when you hit that part, I'm just like by myself, just like shaking my head, like what is going on here? So in week 9, by the way, is awesome as well. The week 9 recap, obviously waiting for week 10. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I guess I can just stop it there, but I was always very curious, like where the time was for you to put all this stuff together. But back to what I was saying before, real quick, I saw somebody else like on Instagram, like trying to do the NFL recap. And honestly, if I had never seen you before and I had just seen this person, I would have been like, this is really good. But because I saw you first, I was like, this is trash. And it's not trash. It's really not. It's actually very good. But because I had seen you first, it just, the bar was so high that I was like, I don't even want to listen to that. But it's just so funny how that works, because you can see how talented you are and how like you clearly outworked this person, even though that person clearly worked really hard and was very clever and all of those things. But yeah, very, very interesting. So a couple more things. One, I got to ask you, because you're a Dolphins fan, but you're not from Miami, right? I see the Ricky Williams jersey behind you. Oh, yeah. Maybe you are from Miami. How did you become a Dolphins fan?
Oh, my dad ruined my life with that. Yeah. He forced that upon me as a kid, and it just because he got Dan Marino and all that stuff, and then I got everybody after that. But yeah, so he put that on to me, and it's finally looking better this year if we could finally just take out one of the good teams. But yeah, that's how that happened. I get on him like every day about that. He could have just made me a Patriot fan. Even give me Giants, I would have saw 2 rings.
So, dude, I'm a Washington Commanders fan. You see behind me, that's Santana Moss holding up the 21 for Sean Taylor, the best safety of all time. Sorry, Ed Reed. With all that said, like I'm a Commanders fan, so I understand your suffering. But I got to say this: you got Ricky Williams over your right shoulder, and I really want to get him on this show. I've had Chris Cody on this show, and he has. You know who Chris Cody is from the Levitard show?
I've heard the name, so yeah, I definitely do.
He's one of the guys. And anyway, Ricky Williams is closely associated with that show. Good friends with Dan Levitard. So I'm hoping to get Ricky Williams on here. So
That'd be fun. That jersey is signed by him, and I don't know why it's on the floor right now, but it says smoke weed every day on it. So
it's not on the floor. What do you mean? It's framed behind you.
Oh no, that is just sitting up. It's in a frame, but it's just on the floor.
Oh, I can't tell because
it used to be mounted up here, but it's not up there anymore. Yeah.
Okay, just 2 more questions. I promise. This I'm holding you way longer than I intended, but this is a conversation I think it's worth having. So for those people that are listening now or listening later who are trying to accomplish a goal, because remember, Sia Nejad Sports is really all about just telling your story, like actually helps people, I think. And this is what I try to get from all my guests. But if you could maybe impart like one piece of advice, and it doesn't have to be something super clever or whatever, but just like whatever comes to mind in terms of, hey, somebody's chasing a goal and they have a great idea, but they get to that sort of second step or maybe that first step, and they're like, all of a sudden it becomes kind of hard and that idea just kind of fizzles away and they sort of just make excuses and just go back to their normal life, which might be fine, but it's not their goal oriented life. What would be your advice to that person?
Yeah, it's going to sound like shitty advice, but it's just, I mean, I think the only reason I'm here now is because I didn't quit. There's going to be so many times, especially if you're just starting, it's not going to work at first. It's not even going to come close to working. And you're going to compare yourself to, let's just say, people like me that are getting views and getting engagement. And you're not getting any of that. And your videos aren't as good. You don't have the best editing. Your audio doesn't sound good. There's going to be so many of those moments, and there's going to be more of those moments in year 5. And if you stop in year 5, you could have made it on year 5, day 1. You know, like if the second you stop, you're done. So and granted, there's been times I thought about it, like, of course, like I wasn't making any money. But if you stop, you will never know. You will never know. And if you really love it, you won't stop. And if you want it enough, you won't stop. So that is literally the advice, is to not stop, because there's so many times I could have gave up and then I don't get anything that I have now. And I'm back at Enterprise, hating my life and working 11-hour shifts. And like I said, 11 hours I thought was crazy. And then you got to realize, working on your own, you got to work more than that. So that's something, those are things you have to realize as well. Don't think that my life is easy or your life is easy. Any people doing what they love, it's easy. It's typically harder, but you love it, right? So you put in more. I was like, oh, I could probably like work less now and just, I put in less hours, and I work so much more. I like those recaps. Those recaps should take me 2 days. I put them out in 12 hours, and like it's miserable at times, but it's. I love it and I get it out and the people love it and they give me a lot of love back. So it's just, but once again, if you stop, you will never know. So you'll have so many moments of doubt, a ridiculous amount of moments, and so much negative things happen, especially if you're trying to do something on your own. It is the hardest thing I have ever done and the hardest thing I will ever do. But if you stop, you will never know.
I love that. I have nothing to add to that. That was absolutely perfect. We always end the show with the following question, because we want to like incorporate some gratitude into the show as well. Sitting here right now, if you could thank 3 people for getting you to where you are today, whether that's with your mindset or just with your music, whatever it is, could be family, could be people that are alive or past, or people you've never even met. 3 people you'd like to thank today for inspiring you or getting you to where you are today.
Mother, father, because they could easily kick me out of their house so long ago, and they trusted that I would make my word and get to where I wanted to be. 3, the kid that's in the chat, Tim, because believe it or not, he would FaceTime me like 6 years ago, even before, just all the time when I had absolutely nothing, and give me like a confidence that like, hey, no, like you're the best artist I've ever heard. Like you're the best, right? You can out rap anyone on the planet. And like, I always felt like I knew it, but I never really heard it from anybody else. So, and you don't need that validation. Keep that in mind. You don't need that from anybody. You have to know it. But boy, is it nice to hear it just every now and then, just so somebody else thinks it, somebody else says it, and sort of gives you that extra bit. So yeah, those would be the three. I have the best parents in the world. So it's because, like I said, this is such a risk for a parent. Oh, your son wants to be a rapper, right? Like, just think about them trying to tell their friends that, right? There's going to be so much judgment, and it's never going to work, blah, blah, blah. And I told them I had a plan. I told them it would work, and they're finally seeing it. And that's like the best thing for me, is because, man, like, I felt like a piece of shit, a liar. Like, I wasn't where I was at, and they let me rock out long enough to prove it to them. So
Japan 5 giving your boy Tim. Am I pronouncing it right? Rongo?
that is correct.
Japan 5, who's a follower of mine and hopefully now a follower of yours, giving Tim props because listen, you're right. You don't necessarily need those people in your life to like catapult yourself up, but boy, does it help instill the confidence that, or just reinstill the confidence that maybe you already had, but you mentioned it, those moments of doubt. Speaking of Tim helping you, the last thing I want to leave on, listen, we're turning this into a podcast. There's going to be somebody listening to this podcast maybe a year from now, maybe a month from now. I'm not really sure. And I want them to know how they can help you, even if it's in the like smallest way possible. Is it following you on Spotify? Is it making sure they're following you at IM_Thorb on all your social media platforms? Or is it something else that I haven't even thought of yet?
I mean, yeah, I don't like, and this is why I'm so bad at business. I hate asking things of other people. So just give me a follow. Every bit of information or anything that maybe you'd want to purchase down the line is going to be there eventually on those platforms. So if you just give me a follow, come along in this ride with me, there'll always be opportunities to support me. And I'm the kind of guy that does not need a lot in life. So the second I'm like comfortable enough, I'm going to give away so much stuff as well. Like, I'm already I wear a Dolphins jersey in the videos. I'm going to give away at least like 4 of those in the next like couple weeks. Because like I said, I don't need a lot. So like the second I get really anything, I'm just going to give it back. So if you guys help me out, I will help you guys out back, and just give me a follow and just come along for the ride, and wherever that goes, who knows, man.
I absolutely love it. Joe in the chat says he's already shared this interview with a couple of people that he knows that actually remind him of you, Thorb. And Edward Gale says, "You are awesome, Sia." I always have to read those, right?
Yeah,
He says, "Thanks for introducing me to Thorb." I'm telling you, everybody, I cannot stress this enough. I don't want you to just follow him on social media. Please go to Spotify or whatever. I don't even know what all the music platforms are at this point, like iHeartRadio, whatever
everyone.
it is. Yeah, he's on everyone. So just type in Thorb and follow along. His music is so good. Hey, man. I appreciate you coming onto the show in short notice, but I certainly even more appreciate you just simply coming onto this show. I cannot thank you enough. I'm truly like inspired by just your story and all your music and content. But hopefully this is a relationship we can foster in the future. Maybe you'll be back on this show someday talking about how you actually made it to the moon.
Yeah, man. Let's stay in touch for sure. And yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes, like with you and this platform. And I mean, you're super good at this, so it's gonna be great. And yeah, I always love to grow, watch other people grow as I grow. So I mean, yeah, let's definitely stay in touch, and I hope you come to the moon with me.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm ready. This has been Sia Nejad Sports. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Always appreciate everybody supporting the show. I want you to support all my guests too. And that, of course, includes at IM_Thorb. Thorb, thank you so much. We'll see you soon on Sia Nejad Sports.